Unfortunately, I have a boss who doesn't need a whole lot of introduction. He has been Gulfport mayor for 11 years and about 17 days. He starts his final year as our mayor. I've got a countdown going. I don't know if he's got it going yet. Before that, he was a very well-respected member of the state senate representing this area, and has spent a lifetime in politics representing in many different ways the city of Gulfport, and then of course the last 11 years not just representing but leading Gulfport. It's my privilege to introduce Mayor Billy Hewes.
Thank you. My real claim to fame is I'm Margaret's next door neighbor. And I'm Harry's cousin, so those are the important things to know. I like to keep things informal when I talk, and I'm going to walk around. You're not going to be able to track me. And if you can't hear me, let me know. But I wanted just to be conversational, but I was walking through here and I'm thinking, I asked Margaret to ask Jace Payne, who is our public information officer, about, what might be some things to talk about. And right now everybody's kind of, let's do a retrospective. I'm not sure I want to talk about everything we've done in the last 11 years, but we'll touch on some things because I'm still more interested in where we're going and what the opportunities are. But what I love about Gulfport and this coast is kind of like the Historical Society. If you stick around, it's going to change. It's going to be different tomorrow than it was today. And what you've done with this building is a real credit and a lot of perseverance. Not knowing where you're going to be from a home for this organization, but I think this depot is so fitting that a lot of our artifacts, a lot of our history that we hopefully will learn from is housed here and is continuing to grow. So thank you for the efforts in preserving our history, because it's really important. It's important for us as Gulfportians. It's a weird word, Gulfportians, but Coastians, whatever. We get overlooked a lot. Not as Gulfport, but as a coastal community. And a lot of y'all know from my angst that I had when I was in the legislature, I had a short fuse about how they would look beyond us or over us or take us for granted, and enjoyed the fact that we are so personality driven with each city historically that we would knock heads so much and we would be like crabs in a bowling pot. We pull each other down instead of coming together. So we changed that narrative and started talking about one coast, about a collective gumbo, if you will, where every ingredient enriches the whole pot and makes it very, very unique. So we try to talk about what we celebrate. If you're smart, unlike me, you won't get on social media. It's kind of an occupational hazard in politics. But social media used to be a tool that could have been pretty neat for everything from sharing recipes to letting folks know what's going on. But it is a forum for hatred and incivility. And unfortunately, not only have these keyboard warriors, which are really keyboard cowards, they've taken commentary, which you want to invite discourse. You want to have differences of opinion. In my line of work, I'm good with criticism, but offered up with the idea of change, not just to beat somebody up or down. Believe me, I can take it. I've been called so many things that just water off my back, but it's not good for the system. It's not good for the psyche. And when I first got elected to the Senate, Governor Fordyce had come in office. This is back in 1992, and he was tired of Mississippi being stereotyped as well. He was from Vicksburg, and he said, "Only positive Mississippi spoken here." And I want us to have the same thing about Gulfport. And this goes, only positive Gulfport. That's not to say ignore the challenges we have and what we have to take on, but the fact is there's so much good to talk about, and there's so much good going on. We have one of the premier mayor's youth councils in the state through the Mississippi Municipal League. And Rebecca Kramer does a remarkable job really kind of providing stewardship for that. But we have kids that beat a path every year and want to get on the Mayor's Youth Council, and we only take about 20, 25 kids every year. And talking to folks in Jackson at that level, I learned at the state level things are really laboratories of democracy, and they're theoretical. At the city level, Harry, it's practical, right? The rubber does meet the road here. We have to pave those roads. And while we may have a political identity, that road's blacktop. It ain't a red road or blue road. All I need is green to make sure that we make things run around here. But what I tell my colleagues in Jackson and around the state, they'll bring their hands about brain drain. Every state's got brain drain. Kids want to go somewhere where they're not from, okay, and check it out. Y'all encourage our youth, your kids, your grandkids to go out and see the world, because I'll bet you, like my kids did, they'll find their way back. Because they realize that the natural resources we have, the lack of gridlock. We get traffic jams every once in a while, but it's easy to go from point A to point B here. The seafood is world class. There are just so many wonderful things. I mean, days like today are more the norm than not. And then people ask me, what about hurricanes? I said, what about them? They're part of our fabric. You know, naturally, everybody's got something. Some folks got tornadoes or wildfires or earthquakes. So if you're going to want to be wringing your hands about something, this is probably not the city for you. If you don't like it here, we got plenty for you to figure out and find something you do like. And I tell folks about the coast. If you come down here, most people see us as the coast. They don't know us as one city to another until they get here. And I tell them, say, you're going to like what you find in Gulfport, but on the chance you don't, go to Pass Christian, go to Biloxi, go to Ocean Springs, go to the Bay. You're going to find stuff because the people here are fantastic, and then everything just kind of follows suit. So I've always kind of been mindful about not letting people beat us down, play on old stereotypes, or kind of forward things that are just either uncharitable or untrue. But a lie unchallenged becomes the truth. I learned a long time ago. So people start talking about stuff. It's our job to educate them. And the Historical Society does that. Does a really good job. Talk about looking at where we're going. First thing is we have been very blessed to have a lot of consistent leadership through the years. And Peggy, you allowed George to serve this community for a long time, and I'm looking forward to Monday morning where we're going to dedicate the lighthouse, and we'll talk about that history as well, to George. He loved lighthouses, and he was just a neat guy, and he was a mentor to me and a lot of folks. But we have been fortunate to have a lot of George Slogans in this community as well, who see the bigger picture. And that is why Gulfport consistently has been a leader on the coast. It has been a leader in the state. We are an economic force. Y'all may not realize that we're still the retail hub of South Mississippi. Everybody thinks it's D'Iberville or these other pockets, and good on them, because if they're doing well, then we're all churning and we're all getting tax dollars and we're all helping the economy moving forward and enjoying what it is that makes South Mississippi unique. So, you know, I'm going to look back just a little bit as far as where we were. I talked about changing our economy. We had a good foundation to build from, but also our profile. And so, you know, you don't miss what you never had, you know what I'm saying? Well, Governor Bryant, I had the pleasure of serving with him very closely. So when he became governor, a couple years later, I became mayor. And we were still in a recovery phase from Katrina. And I said, we've done a needs assessment, and we've got a lot of things back on their feet, but there are some gaps that we don't have. The coast is a great place for adults to come and play, right? It's a great place to raise a family, but as far as amenities and attractions, we didn't have a whole lot, and we had lost the ocean area. And marine life was a great thing to have, but y'all, it was 1950s technology, and it was built on the basis of a wastewater treatment plant. That's the technology they used for oceanariums back then, so you had these round rings with these windows that are this big that you couldn't see through, if you remember that. I told Governor Bryant, I said, okay, Biloxi got to baseball. You know, we had a shot at it, but I really think the baseball developers used Gulfport to try to get Biloxi to take the plunge. That was fine. And I said, I'm going to support Biloxi baseball or anything along this coast that brings more family-oriented amenities to us. I said, Phil, we got a gap. He said, what you need? I said, we miss our aquarium, and it's time to do something world class. He said, I'm your huckleberry. He said, let's go. Figured out how to do it. So he committed almost $20 million off the bat, and we knew we had some seed money to get things going. Now, it was an 8-year lift, and it...
What year was that?
That was...
when it started.
You make me do the math. No, I think it was 2017, 2018.
Okay.
Now, we started the discussion in 2013. 2014. So it took that long, and it took about 5 years to raise the money, and it was a philanthropic, I call it a P4, you have P3s, public-private partnership. And those are, for the most part, good ideas, because you have the public money involved, you got the private sector involved, the public is the philanthropic side. And well, the public money is actually state, city, federal. Didn't get many federal funds, but we did, the city of Gulfport thought it was worth the investment. And we had a lot of partners. We had a lot of folks shooting at us too, wanting us to fail. And that's just the nature of pettiness. But against a lot of odds, we have a state-of-the-art facility that is really starting to come into its own. Has anybody been there in the last year? Okay. Have you seen the new exhibit? So, you know, everything goes by ratings, right? You know, whether a TripAdvisor is a big deal. We all check if we're going somewhere. Well, when the aquarium came on, it was great, but it wasn't enough, not for the price. And so we realized that we had this meeting space, which was a great idea, but there's a better use for it. So there's a new exhibit called Changing Tides, and it's got a lot of things you expect to see in aquariums, and it's been a real enhancement to the aquarium, the quality of it, the features, the different types of everything from a Caribbean reef to a sloth to an octopus. It's just really cool. The next phase for the aquarium, and we'll talk about Gulfport in general about where we're going, is penguins. You know, like penguins? People are goo-goo about those birds. And we're going to have an announcement that's going to be really, really exciting about them, aside from a new exhibit. So you know where the dolphins are on that end, on the east end, dolphins and the otters? There's a little alcove there where you make a turn. We're going to have about a $9 million facility for the dozen penguins that we have that are ambassador animals now. So if you think it was good before, it's going to be even better. And there's going to be, again, a really surprise announcement that you're going to be. They can't talk about it right now, but something cool has happened. So use your imagination about our birds. They're doing some really great research. I think the next big step for Gulfport is the research hub for maritime advancement is taking place now, and it's going to continue to grow. There are two major research institutions in America. One is on the East Coast, one is on the West Coast. It's Scripps and Woods Hole. One's around Monterey Bay, one's I think up around Maine. We never had anything on the Gulf. Why? I don't know. But the University of Southern Mississippi, in conjunction with the port, has started this Gulf Blue. You familiar with that? It's and our cost of living, I think, is the key. Is why that's working so well. People are finding out that, you know, you got to get them to say, hey, I'm not moving to Mississippi, and then they get to Mississippi, they tell me I can't imagine living anywhere else. We got a guy in Boston who just came down for some work on the Industrial Seaway, and he was on a forum with the at the Gulf Coast Business Council, and they asked him, you had these misgivings and concerns about coming. He said, what about it now? He said, I love it. He said, what do you tell your friends back at Boston? I tell them, you were right, it's horrible, don't come. Because he doesn't want them coming down messing it up. So you know, that's kind of what we're dealing with, but he says the tongue, but that's a great endorsement for us. But, so he came over. You might have seen this Ocean Aero building down. It's a black building. It's got a neat logo on it near the yacht club. 2 years ago, that company was based in San Diego, California. They moved here because of the proximity they can get, not to the water, but on the freaking water. In San Diego, you can't get that. And if you are water dependent, and what they do, they build drones, and that's the next thing. But unmanned drones in the air, land and sea, that's where everything's going. And these things are more than just mapping the ocean, I can tell you that. They are used in military theater. They can carry ordnance. They can do espionage. They can, you know, collect data. That's what they're for. But they are very utilitarian, and they're being built right here in South Mississippi. Are y'all familiar with nuclear class submarines? You've heard of them, certainly. Bow domes are made in Gulfport, Mississippi for these huge submarines. They're made of composite material. They go out on the front so the radars can shoot through and stuff. There are some really, really cool things from a technological standpoint that we just don't realize are going on. These trains, they haul stuff east, west, north, and south all the time. And I think the port, with the new director, we're again starting to enter a new era of bringing more jobs, but having new partnerships and things are going to look different. What all this means is, how many of y'all have driven up around Orange Grove around the Sportsplex? Go up, Ron, you can't go out of your ward, buddy. So I grew up in Orange Grove. I went to Harrison Central, and there were pine trees and pitcher plants everywhere. They're not anymore. And then we have been developed to the nth degree. But if you go to the west, down Orange Grove Road, down Landon Road, down Robinson Road, any of these, there are hundreds of houses in these brand new neighborhoods you just don't realize are being built. So we have people moving here all the time, which again, contributing to the economy is great, but our challenges turn into traffic nightmares, sometimes snarls. And so we have been working on a build grant program, a $20 million grant we got from Senator Wicker back in 2019 that we are trying to build, where we're connecting the airport road across in the area where the outlet mall is, and connect the north and south areas, but more importantly, connect Highway 49 to Canal Road. That is so key from a safety standpoint, from a development standpoint, from anything, but we can't have them fast enough. Last year, the legislature gave us $20 million for the north side of the interstate. So we've got 2 tracks we're trying to get done. And there are a lot of hurdles that we're having to go through, and they're challenging, but they're worth the effort. You know, they really are worth it, and I'm hopeful about that. Probably won't break ground on any of them before I leave office, but the fact is there's always something going on in Gulfport, and that's the beauty of where we are. Whether it's a challenge, we look at it as an opportunity, but we also see where there is need. We have to be really good salesmen to make our pitch to the folks at the federal level and the state level for these large-scale projects. The good news is they're being worked on every single day. Bad news is they can't happen fast enough. Nothing does. And I just frustrate me. I'm on the inside, and I can't make them go any faster than they do. But we try. We take another step on another thing. If you look at that social media, if you look at the news, do you see anything good? Not very often. And we've got a problem with, and it shows up about every time school gets out. Kids have too much time on their hands. But we got turf wars, and sometimes they're drug-related wars, and we're naive if we don't think it's not in our community. Every community has the problems I'm about to talk about. But of late, we've had some kids getting real, terrible, irresponsible, and just outright criminal with guns, gun violence. You know where they're getting the guns? Out of your cars. Most guns that are used in crimes on the street are from people leaving their own personal gun in their car unlocked in their driveway or on the street. And that's just an invitation for them to get stolen. And that's how they get on the street. That's number one. But more importantly than that, we have to start insisting that parents have some responsibility or take some responsibility for their kids or know about it, because a lot of these kids, they'll go on Facebook brandishing these guns, talking about how bad they are and how they're in the light, and the parents look the other way. You know, so that's on one side. Then Ron came to me the other day, and we got a problem with people raising Cain about, hang on over here, camera.
I got you.
About golf carts. Why don't we have a golf cart ordinance? And okay, we're driving in the streets. Why can't we do it? I got a ticket for it, da-da-da-da-da-da. Well, we don't have an ordinance. I don't know if we'll ever get an ordinance, but Ron's going to try. But even if we have an ordinance, a lot of it comes down to parents. Why are you letting your 12-year-old ride a golf cart? Drive a golf cart. Or ride with other 12-year-olds in that golf cart who don't know about safety rules, don't know how to properly operate a vehicle, and are going to get themselves or somebody else killed. That's the other end of the spectrum on parental responsibility. I mean, a lot of folks expect the state and teachers, the schools, to raise their kids, and that's just not how it works, not effectively anyway. So that's a challenge we've got. Homelessness. We're seeing a growing population of homelessness. I don't get it, but every mayor I talk to in America, that is the 1, 2, or 3 top issue, because there's no easy fix, because every homeless person has a unique set of issues and problems. And I met with my police and fire folks yesterday about some areas where they're holding up and starting to harass people, and we're not going to have it. So they can be on public space. Yeah, they can be on public space, but they cannot accost people. They're not going to inhibit or have a negative effect on harassing folks. But we've got to have some situations where nonprofits have some answers, where the churches work with us on some of these things, and the city does it. But if we have folks that are trespassing on property, we are going to remove them from that property. Now, the property owner should be doing it, but it's got to the point where we hear on a daily basis from folks, I'm tired of getting harassed when I go to a restaurant. I can't go to my church. I had a priest get beat up by a homeless person about a year ago. So it's kind of gotten out of hand. We've got our own special set of circumstances and problems, but there is no easy fit to addressing the scourge of homelessness. A lot of them we are finding don't want to be on the grid. They don't want to be in permanent housing. Those that do, we try to get them through nonprofits to do that. But the return rate is pretty bad. The statistics are not good in most categories as far as even when you provide help for folks. But giving them a sack lunch and sending them on their way is not helping their situation, and it's not fixing things for our city either. So that is something that we will continue to work on as well. But you know what? It's a good problem to have too. But folks are drawn here for the same reason, a lot of homeless and homebound, and for folks who have homeowners, because we are a pretty neat place to be and we have compassionate, wonderful people here. Just a few hot points. I talked about the economic profile. In the last decade, we've changed our economic profile. We continue to grow because we've had good foundational basis for it. But our physical profile has changed too, with things like the aquarium. I know we've talked about the Markham getting finished, but they're this much closer. Now, 10 years I'll be saying they're this much closer. But actually, the owner has told me he's going to finish it before I get out of office, and when he does, it's going to have it's going to be a brand new hotel in a historic property. It'll have a restaurant downstairs, and it'll have the coolest rooftop bar in the South. So I believe it when I see it, but they seem to be making progress. Centennial Plaza is another one that's coming into its own. You know, when I came on, Mayor Schlegel had dealt with this guy who owned it out of New Orleans who was a flipper. And he had tried from before he became mayor to try to get it moved along. When I came in, we had one set of flippers bought it from the other flipper. These aren't dolphins. These are people who try to make money without having to do a whole lot other than buy property and take advantage of the increasing property values. We finally had a fella who bought it from the third time, not long after I became mayor, and he bought that, and he also leased Centennial Plaza from the city. He's put $90 million into Centennial. He's put about $30 million already into Markham. These investments are not inconsequential, and Centennial is really starting to come on its own. I've been calling it the resort of the new Gulf South, and I really believe it is, but it's only scratched the surface. This time of the year, you can't get a room there, because all the baseball and sports tourism, with that water park, that's where they want to stay, right? That's where they want to be. But he's bringing a new amenity that they're going to be announcing on the other side of the property that's going to be a draw, hopefully to fill rooms in the off-season. Because off-season for us, we just about shut down from a tourism standpoint. But having things like that aquarium, like the Lynn Meadows Discovery Center, which is the first and probably one of the biggest attractions in Mississippi, believe it or not, for a children's museum. And I mean, that's something that's really withstood the test of time. Ideally in an old school that was rehabbed and refurbished. Any of you been to Lynn Meadows? It's really great. Take your kids. Anybody been to the new model train museum? It is on Pass Road. Pass Road is slowly but surely seeing getting some new light breathed into it. Different areas, and it needed it. And sometimes that's just the way urban centers and cities go. They decline and they come back, and I think we're starting to see some new light breathed in Pass Road. But the Model Train Museum is a neat story. Richard Mueller, who recently passed, he was one of the early Domino's Pizza franchisees. And he had Domino's Pizza. He started here. He's from, I think, Michigan. And he had a franchise in Washington, D.C. and in other areas. Well, he ended up being probably the largest franchisee in Domino's history. So he did real well. And he and his brother, Glenn, lived in Long Beach. And they're still with us. They were hobbyists growing up. They had model trains, and they had a love affair with them, Richard in particular. And so all of a sudden we started seeing on Pass Road across from the Aviation Museum these terribly painted buildings that were red. But a model train museum, we didn't know what it was, went inside and said, please don't let code see this. There was more extension cords on the walls and the floors and everything. but it was kind of cool. It was bright and noisy, and they said, we're going to put this on steroids. So they bought an abandoned strip mall right there, Hewes Avenue and Pass Road, by Ward's. And they renovated it, took about a year. And when people started finding out about these hobbyists, they started donating their childhood and father's train sets from around the country. The largest one, it's an amazing diorama. It takes up about this whole room, but it's these mountains and houses and cows and people, and it's all to scale. And these trains that run through it. It took 18-wheelers to get that whole set down here. But that's just an indication of one of the things they see. So they got indoor and outdoor stuff for kids to do. And if you go by at any time of the week or weekend, the parking lot is full. So they have figured it out. So I think we continue to figure things out too. Gulfport's in a really great place. I love this city. I love talking about Gulfport. When I go to a conference, I try to say, okay, you know your next one's in Gulfport, right? Where is that? Well, Dave, we're going to find out because you're going to want to come back once you figure it out. So we've been successful there too, introducing people to how we live, what we're about, and what we enjoy. So I'm not done. I got about a year left, and I'll continue to be engaged and involved. People tell you, what you got to do? I said, I got plenty of time to figure that out. Besides, my wife of almost 40 years, she's got plans for me that I don't know about too. So don't y'all worry about me. So I'll take questions. Anybody want to know anything? Sure.
What about downtown? You touched on.
I'm sorry, you've already asked a question. Anybody else? Well, what about downtown?
You touched on Orange Grove and plans up there, expansion plans and some state funding, but downtown in particular. So
The biggest question I've been asked, and really it's more West Gulfport than it is downtown, I'm going to get back to downtown, is why don't we have a grocery down here? A grocery store. Go shopping. And we said in the quadrant from I-10 to 49 over to the city line, we figured about 16,000 people. And sometimes you got to feed these demographics to the grocery stores. It's more of a low mod, lower income, middle to low income community. But everybody's got to eat. And there's some grocery stores that specialize serving these communities. We hear of Aldi's, we hear of Ramsey's, there's some. So I went to a shopping center conference a few weeks ago, and we talked to some prospects. So maybe they'll come. We think we're making a case. Which brings us back to downtown. All that blue economy that I was talking about, you know, millennials, they live different than I did. I want a yard, I want a house, you know, and a fence and all this. They don't want a lot of that kind of stuff. They want an efficiency apartment or something small, and they want to be able to walk to work or bike to work. And we got the you know, conditions for that with our year-round climate. But on the corner of Highway 49 and 90, the west side, some of y'all maybe remember the Gulf National Bank. It's just a slab. It's been a slab since Katrina. Wrapping all around the Gulf and Ship Island building, which is probably the most historic building in the city. There's a group that has bought it. Roy Anderson, local. Rick Carter, we've got the Island View, and a few other folks have invested. And they've got a concept that's gone through 3 versions. And sometimes you get impatient, but I'm glad it's taken them 3 versions because this last version is remarkable. It is a Marriott hotel. It is about 100 apartments, high-end apartments. It is a rooftop bar. It is a restaurant. It is retail downtown. So it is a true multi-use concept. I'm hoping they'll break ground in October, which means next October. but that's okay. It probably has as good a chance. I don't believe anything until the ground's broken and concrete's being poured, and even then I don't believe it until we cut the ribbon. But in talking to folks and trying to find incentives that we can provide and help them as a city, and there's been some state money put towards it, so I really believe that it's going to happen. And when it does, I think it's going to serve a lot of the folks who continue to want to locate, work downtown in the area, and get around. I also think if we get that many people here, living permanently, and that, guess what? The grocery store follows, and other stuff. Robert St. John, y'all know Robert St. John. He's a friend of mine, known for a long time. He's a restaurateur, entrepreneur out of Hattiesburg. He does these real neat concept restaurants, and he's got 5 of them, in Hattiesburg. One's called the Midtown, and it's a great breakfast spot. Well, Lord knows Gulfport, we need a great breakfast spot. And he has looked at Gulfport. He's flirted with us about 3 times and said, I'm tired of being the girl at the dance you don't dance with. So you come down here next time, I'm gonna pin you. So he wants to put either a Midtowner or a downtowner right in downtown. And so he's looking at a number of buildings, trying to work some deals. So I hope he'll do it. Even if he doesn't, there are other people looking, and I think there's a lot of opportunity. Wouldn't you like to have a Mediterranean restaurant downtown? Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be great? You know, you can get about any kind of cuisine you want. Thai, Indian, Italian, you know, I tell people, if you go hungry down here, you didn't try. You know, so you're lazy. And in Miss Aldridge, that's my favorite spot. You know, so if you hadn't been to Miss Aldridge, you need to go. Yes, ma'am.
What's going on on 34th Avenue? No, 34th Avenue, and also
back towards
John Hill Boulevard that goes by the airport. They've torn all that.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So there's a thing called Project Ready. That's going to be my term, I call it. We have had, remember when Google and Amazon were looking at building they were doing a nationwide search on distribution centers, you know, and new campuses and all. They wanted walkable communities as well. Gulfport was in the top 5, our community for consideration. There are a number of reasons that they made it, and they didn't give us a debrief, but I know we made the short list, which is great that people are finally starting to see us and look at us, but be careful what you ask for sometime. But to answer your question, there was an aerospace company that looked in our area that they wanted to locate next to the airport and build fuselages for private jets. Didn't happen, but again, first time ever anybody's even come to do that. But what they want hundreds of acres, 50, 100, 200, 500 acres, tracts that are ready to go, not that they have to develop. So part of that is the airport authority and or the development commission has cleared that. So when a prospect comes in, they're not looking at a huge pine forest. They're looking at a piece of land that's got the utilities to it, that's got the footprint that they need, they get the access to the major thoroughfares. And so that's what that is. They've got it ready so when folks come, we can say, let's make a deal.
Part of it looks like water.
What's that?
This is the,
John Hill Boulevard.
yeah, on 34th Street, you can't see it.
Now, on
Looks like
34th
water.
I know what you're talking about. They got it kind of berms built up. I don't know that. It may be retaining ponds they have to do so the water doesn't run off the property into other areas. That may be part of what it is, but I don't think that's a permanent feature. I saw that too, right behind Lowe's. Yeah.
I had read and heard through the news about the port trying to get money for dredging.
Yeah.
So we get larger ships in. How's that going?
That is a perpetual discussion. So it's always going, we're at the mercy of the Corps of Engineers for water projects, most of this land projects. When I was in the Senate, my first chairmanship was Ports and Marine Resources, and we had a guy come to us, I want y'all to think about this. He said, we need more money to dredge the river so the big ships can get under the bridge. I said, think about what you just said. And don't change the water level, you know. So, but anyway, I think,
It's a process, right?
it always is, and it has to be because it is such a monumental, you know, $10, $20, $30 million consideration to maintain. And so they've got dredges out there doing some maintenance dredging, but the discussion is to take it 8 feet deeper than it is now, breadth and width. So that's.
They're talking about bringing like larger ships into the port that would feed into other ports' business, would it not?
I hope so. But here's the thing.
We're thinking about politics.
Yeah, oh yeah. We're a niche port, which is good. We're never going to be huge, which is not a bad thing. And in some respects, we don't want to be. So you hear about Panamax and post-Panamax ships, these huge oil tankers that are, you know, 800 feet long and 300 feet wide. We'll never have those. We don't need them. You know, those are the ones that hang off of Houston and offload and off of Miami.
Yeah.
But for some ships, there's a class of ships that we could probably accommodate Look, if we could get that Carnival Cruise Line in, you know, a few years back, you remember that? We could get
I was
Carnival.
thinking about that.
Yeah, and that thing overshadowed the entirety of Gulfport, much less the port. So we have the capacity and capability. We've got a great labor union and a relationship with the stevedores and longshoremen. So labor is not an issue. Costs are really not an issue. It's a matter of getting in and getting out at the passage ship island. But you can see dredge ships out there now that are doing maintenance dredging, but not the enlarging, just keeping it open.
I can't believe labor is not an issue, but okay.
Okay, let me clarify that. The cost of labor.
Yeah,
Getting people to work, that's a universal problem.
yeah, everywhere.
Yeah.
You mentioned the high-end apartments that you're talking about, Bill, that they propose. And I've heard other proposals for high-end apartments in downtown Gulfport. But as you said, a lot of the people who work in downtown Gulfport or in the area are low to middle income. They can't afford that housing. Is there any talk of affordable housing for individuals and families?
There is, but it's not in downtown Gulfport because I think the cost per square footage is probably a little higher. The bigger trick there for downtown is parking.
And transit?
Yeah, and we've got a good public transit, and Kevin Coggan, he's probably going to retire at some point, but our transit authority has been known to adapt. If there's a need and an opportunity for them to serve, they've been pretty good about creating new routes. They have to monetize. But on affordable housing, after Katrina, we were overbuilt. We had a glut of it, and there was too much, and folks started putting all these high-end amenities because of the tax breaks they got, and they're filling them out. And so I don't think the council does either, what they call Section 42. Not mean by Section 42, but it's a tax component that basically lets somebody come in, invest a lot of money, get their money in maybe 2 or 3 times what they put into it over a few years, and then leave. So there's no local management. And what they do, they flip it pretty quick. That's a flip word again. And fill it with low income, subsidized housing, and all of a sudden that becomes our crime center. So again, personal responsibility, good managers. When you hear somebody shot up Emerald Pines the other day, or you hear something about, I don't know if y'all do, but I hear certain apartment complexes and housing units are notorious. And usually it comes down to bad management. They turn the other way when there's a drug deal going on or prostitution going on. Yeah, it happens. But those that run folks off, you never have a problem there. So, you know, it's just about, we've got to have some responsibility. And look, as a community, I hope you all will do this, and I think I'm preaching to the choir. It drives me crazy when people trash our city. I see people throwing stuff out. I pick up trash on the street all the time. We got some filthy people. In general, we're not. We get some people who just don't flip and care. And if you've ever been to a neighborhood cleanup, you realize how much trash is on the side of the road. And everybody expects, I'll throw it up in the city, you'll get it. We don't have the manpower, personnel, time, or resources to get every piece of trash that's thrown out, and we shouldn't, because we pay good money for garbage service, right? So if y'all see somebody, I think we need to start shaming folks. Don't get shot, but I think we need to shame some folks. I'm also on the point where if somebody throws a bottle out by my house, I'm gonna throw it back at the car, and it ain't gonna be good.
I live in Biloxi, and it's the very same thing.
Well, no. They tell me everything's wonderful in Biloxi.
Yeah, no. It's a constant thing. I live on a corner, too.
Yeah, it amazes me that people will just casually toss them. How hard is it to throw it away when you get home? But some folks had been raised that way, but it's about pride in your community.
Could be a teenager doesn't want mom and dad to find out what they're drinking.
Well, you may be onto something there, but that's not all of them, because it's not all liquor bottles. Yeah.
Now, we grew up with don't litter.
That's right.
My kids saying don't litter, don't be a litter bug, and it was everywhere you went. It was just like a cycle. You wouldn't see anybody doing anything because the kids were on it.
Yeah.
They did it, but we don't hold our kids responsible.
We don't hold our kids responsible, and it is like a cancer. I mean, people say, well, if they ain't taking care of it, I'm not taking care of it. Yeah.
On 27th Avenue, intersection of Highway 90, there's a mound that's overgrown.
A what?
There's a mound that's overgrown with bushes and grass, but it's covered by what looks like the part of the original stone wall surrounding the Great Southern Hotel. What can be done by the city to prevent it from being destroyed by local developers?
The main thing we can do, number one, if it's private property, there's just so much we can do. But what can be done as citizens, and this is a general conditional, not just on historic properties, if there's somebody that is not taking care of their property, complain. Let us know. We get hit between the eyes about stuff. Why is this happening? Or why are you doing this? Or why are you getting on my property? And usually because somebody complained. And I think it's wonderful because we have taken our code division and put them under the police department, and they go out and they will issue fines and say, look, you need to clean up around this. I know your question is more historical based on that, but it's really, for me, it's really how we take care of our city and our condition. And you know, I did a big push about cars in yards. I can't stand it. It's a pet peeve. And I had some folks say, well, you know, a guy came to city council, he said, I got 6 cars, I can't afford to house them. I said, garage them. I said, if you can afford 6 cars, you can afford to find a place for them. And your front yard ain't the place. Well, I pay my taxes. I said, so do your neighbors, and they're tired of looking at it. Which one complained? None of your damn business. And they said, which one complained? I said, I did. You're not my neighbor. I said, I still complain. Come to me. So it's about respecting each other's property and city. And you pay taxes, you have the right to have a clean home next to you, just like they do that with you as their neighbor. Yeah.
I just have 2 comments. One, the court office, we had a vacant lot that wasn't being kept up. You kind of fill out the form and send it in, and then like a week later, it was home. So that was amazing. And I'm from Wisconsin, and my folks came down here, and they were blown away by all the cool stuff. Like Newman Lumber, they sell more mahogany, the best mahogany for both buildings in the country is right here.
Yep.
And a bunch of other
Exotic Woods. Yep. See you Monday. Usually people walk out of my speeches well before this. It was a matter of time.
They were limiting me. They were limiting me.
Thank you for keeping it here, Ron. Yeah. Yeah, Mary Ann.
Oh, I just had a question.
We're not going to tear down the library.
Oh, no. Today is beautiful. A few years ago, I took a real interest in the Aviation Museum here. I think this should be promoted so much for tourism.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fantastic, and a lot of people don't know about it. How can they get grants? Can we get the word spread? I mean, this is probably one of the best things in the nation that we have right here in Gulfport, Mississippi.
Well, and that's a perfect thing for the, talking about the Air Heritage Museum. You know, you got something about the brown condor right here, John Robinson, a display. But we have such a rich history, and a lot of times we didn't know about it until Tom Simmons started talking about it, wrote a book about it, and others. But Francisco Gonzalez spun a freaking shoestring, talked us into letting them have a city building for $1.
I thought he was crazy. That never raised the money or raised the interest to do that.
That's exactly right. And they still have not occupied a half of that building. But the quality of the exhibits, talking about our heritage from an aeronautics standpoint, is really pretty remarkable. So do yourself a favor, go to the Model Train Museum, go a block over and go to the Aviation Museum. And at some point they want to make it where you can go to the roof and watch planes come and go.
I think that's what he's working on now.
So with almost nothing, and a little bit here, a little bit there, they have done a remarkable job with that museum.
And then when they leave there, tell them to come and visit our museum.
Oh no, this is the first stop. Thank you. All right.